My talk today is Thank God Anyway. And I'm going to take part of my Bible reading from Ecclesiastes, the third verse, the third chapter, the first 8 verses. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time to war and a time of peace. In other words, we have various seasons of our life, and we might just as well expect them. And during whatever season we are going through, I maintain we should give thanks to God anyway. No matter how terrible things seem to be, you really can give thanks to God. You can give thanks that you have the opportunity to prove once again that there is one presence and one power operating in your life. We all have times when we feel that we'd like to give up, that it's about time to just quit, and that's just the time we want to learn to give thanks to God anyway. I learned a lesson about this from a tree in the front yard of the apartment that I'm living in, because it is right outside the sliding glass doors, and I can see it. During the first part of March, we had some lovely, lovely weather. It was about 80 degrees, and things were just sprouting all around. And this blessed, gorgeous tree started to bloom. It really was doing a good job of growing. Leaves were coming out, and little pink buds were showing their faces. And I thought, oh, this is going to be just like home. I have a tree like this in my yard, and I rejoice every year when it blooms. And then all of a sudden, one morning, I woke up, and it had snowed. And not only had it snowed, but it was cold. Now, we get snow on our trees when they leaf out and when they bloom sometimes in Minnesota, but that's just a minor matter, and those trees just kind of do it. You know, they just take it. They don't bother with it. But here, this poor little tree shriveled up. And I said to myself, my goodness, is this tree going to not bloom this year? I'm looking forward to seeing those blooms. They're pink. It's a crabapple tree, I think. You know, there are all kinds of trees that bloom, and sometimes I don't know the names of them, but the one at home is a crabapple, and this looks like that kind of a tree. Well, I waited and looked at the tree and really blessed it and told it how darling it was and that I really wanted it to bloom. I don't know whether I had anything to do with it, but within about 10 or 15 days, it was showing signs of growing again. And oh, was I grateful. Now I have the most gorgeous, flowering, I think, crabapple tree anywhere. And I didn't go to church. I missed Ross yesterday because I was just so pleased to have that blooming tree. In other words, that tree didn't give up. It thanked God. You know, I said to myself as I was thinking about what was going on with that tree, I thought, so many things in our life are the same way. We start out, we work so hard, we think that the blooming season is right at hand. Everything, the weather, or whatever is going on in our life, just seems to be the most wonderful thing that you could ever imagine. And then all of a sudden we get a blast of winter again. A blast of cold, a blast of uncomfortableness. And we wonder, you know, what can I do? Where am I going? How can I work out of this thing? Well, in Thessalonians, the 5th chapter, the 16th, 17th, and 18th verses, we have the recipe for all of this. It says, rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Jesus Christ concerning you. Rejoice evermore. When you get that blast of winter in your life, give thanks. You know, just rejoice. Keep on rejoicing. But always remember to pray without ceasing. Forgot to put my tape on again. What you want to do is pray and keep on praying. Meditate and keep on meditating. I wonder if that tree had any intelligence. I hope it did. I hope it sent up a message sometimes that I send up, and it says, God, you're sending me mixed blessings here, mixed messages. I can't understand what you're trying to tell me. But you know, when I do that, somehow or other I know, after the whole thing is over with, why I had to go through that bit of hell, that bit of uncomfortableness. And I see that message very clearly. So I have learned when I have a bit of a problem, when I get into a bit of a mess, when I get into something that I'm not exactly comfortable with, to pray without ceasing, to rejoice evermore, and to continue to give thanks. Because I know that works. I have a deep, deep conviction in my life. One of the reasons that I came into Unity was because I resonated very well with there is one presence and one power. One presence and one power working in my life. And that I am a channel through which that power can work. I can work with that power, and it can work in my life. I wonder sometimes how the Fillmores felt about when they came out here and started to build this village. And in the 1930s, they had to move back to Kansas City because the economic conditions were not conducive to building anything. I wonder how they felt when they said, we've got to pack it in, we've got to go. I wonder how that worked in their life. I know for myself that I had a similar situation. I had a job that I really didn't like very well, but there was nowhere for me to go. I had to stay there. I had to work at that job. It was important that I keep on. I had been there too many years, and yet I knew that I needed to make some changes. I had to pray a lot. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, dear ones, I prayed and I prayed, and I prayed for about 2.5 years. And when the situation finally ended, when it finally resolved itself, everything blossomed just like that little tree in my yard. It blossomed so well that I cannot tell you. And for that, I am eternally grateful. We also have something in Romans. From the 8th chapter, the 28th verse, it says, we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. When I first came upon that verse many years ago, I had to become acquainted with to them who are called according to his purpose. And I really had to resonate with that before I could get to the first part of the verse, which said, we know that all things work together for good to them that love God. If my purpose, if God is working through me, then I have no problem. I have to check to see, am I doing the things that God wants me to do? Am I doing what I have been told in meditation and prayer to do? I would also point out to you that in this verse we read all things, not some things, not the little things, not the big things, not when we've been good and not when we've been especially prayerful, Not when we've done something wonderful for somebody else, but all things, everything, no matter what, work together for good in our lives. If I don't leave you with anything else, I want you to know that you can thank God anyway, in the bad things, in the good things. You can rejoice evermore. You can be grateful to God. God bless you.